Good morning, my name is Steve Hindy. I'm the president of Showing Animals Respect and Kindness, or SHARK. SHARK works around the U.S. and other countries at times, into Canada, into Mexico, and into Europe on rare occasions. We work primarily on investigations. We do very little protesting, but some of you may know that we've worked on rodeos around the country. One thing I want to say about rodeos, I kind of compare them to Spain and Mexico's bullfights. Rodeos are the bullfighting of the U.S. In bullfights, they intentionally torture an animal to death. Typically, it's more like 4 animals in an afternoon, maybe as many as 6. I've seen, if I go to the Cheyenne rodeo in Cheyenne, Wyoming, I've seen as many as 6 calves crated out in a single afternoon. So when you take into account then all the other animals that are also being abused, the steers, the horses, it's no different than bullfighting. So I want you all to consider that almost if I started questioning which town did you come from and such, in almost every instance I'm going to be able to tell you the name of at least one rodeo that's within probably 20 or 30 miles of your town. It would be fantastic if we started seeing more action from U.S. citizens about rodeo. Funny thing was, about 2 years ago, one of my associates and I actually flew to China because the Chinese activists knew that they were trying to start some rodeos in China, and they raised one hell of a ruckus. I remember China, very, very subversive government. You don't have as many rights in China as you do in the U.S. But those Chinese activists were not going to accept rodeos. And they fought, they brought us over there to talk with Chinese officials, and there are no rodeos in China. They're still trying. They're still trying to bring them to China, but those Chinese activists are really, they're just not putting up with it. I was so impressed with the Chinese activists because I saw our movement 20 years ago. And what's happened in the 20 years here, and I hope it doesn't happen in China, is that we've become very relaxed. We've become older in some cases, and we've become very comfortable and very relaxed. And if we really want to stop these abuses, it's a sweet and sour thing for me to come to these conferences, because I see lots of people of like mind. The sour part is that this is the only time I'm going to see you, for the most part. And what we really need is for you to be out there with the circuses. I mean, we're not talking about the circuses in Peru, because there's plenty of circuses right here. And Matt needs your help here just as bad as any place else. We've got the marine parks, where you can be fighting against them and educating people. Education is the key. How many of you were born vegan? How many of you were born animal supporters, animal activists? A lot of you weren't, but you learned along the way. And that's what made you what you are. And that's what we need now. We need you got it. You got the compassion bug. And now you need to pass it along. You need to infect a whole bunch of other people. And part of that is by going out to like the circuses and the rodeos and the marine parks and such, and simply reaching out to people. Protests can take many different forms. The form that I like the best is the kind that really educates people. And we could use you at the rodeos in the biggest way. We're going out and we're getting footage. And that's another thing. If you were so fortunate as to have 6 or 8 or 10 people involved in your efforts, or more, then send 1 or 2 of them into the rodeo or into the circus with a camera so that you get more goods. And if you get the goods, and the marine parks too, because shit happens at marine parks. And then you can get that footage. If it's marine parks, probably best get in touch with the Sea Shepherd. Get in touch with Matt Rosell if it's the circuses. Get in touch with us if it's the rodeos. The rodeos are pure animal abuse. Jeremy Beckham knows that. He worked against the Olympic rodeo. We were proud to work with him and his organization. You know, calves being clotheslined, calves just a few months old being clotheslined, being strangled, being dragged by the neck, being body slammed. Horses being shot, being literally stabbed. We've caught them of this kind of a recent thing, kind of rather shocking, sticking wires up their anuses in order to get tame, domesticated animals to act wild from pain and torment. So, none of us like it, but the question is, what are you going to do about it? Please get involved. If you want to know more, contact us, sharponline.org, and we'll be happy to try and work with you. I'm going to move very quickly into live pigeon shoots, Pennsylvania's infamous live pigeon shoots, where pigeons are put into individual boxes and tossed up as if they were clay pigeons and shot. This is an activity that is illegal in Pennsylvania, but because the NRA runs the state, there is no prosecution because the pigeon shooters are profoundly wealthy, worth many millions, in many cases hundreds of millions of dollars, and very politically connected. Nothing's happening. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of who's from Pennsylvania, but if I knew who you were, I would tell you, what the hell are you people doing? Because I'm frankly sick and damn tired to death of shark traveling 1,500 miles round trip every time we have to battle a pigeon shoot, and rarely, if ever, seeing a Pennsylvania. We can knock these things out. I remember a time, not that long ago, when this movement was really focused on pigeon shoots. You remember that, Matt? I mean, and we were going to conferences in Pennsylvania, and we were saying, we will never forget, and this will end. Well, we've almost all forgotten. And they're still going on. I heard that a speaker a couple mornings ago said something to the effect that pigeon shoots used to occur in Pennsylvania and don't anymore. They still do. They still do. We put over 30,000 miles going to Pennsylvania and back in the last year. So if you are from Pennsylvania, if you know somebody who's from Pennsylvania, the Humane Societies of Pennsylvania, there's a federation, it's called the Federated Humane Societies of Pennsylvania. Oh, how impressive. And they say, we're the oldest active humane federation. Bullshit. They may be the oldest, but they are inactive. They are traitors to the animals. And the reason why, and this is what's really sad, is that they want to be in good with the very people who are betraying the animals. They want to be in good with the district attorneys who are throwing out every time animal cruelty charges are brought.
Why do they want to be in good with them? That doesn't make sense.
Because they're making millions of dollars. These organizations are making millions. You check out, if you go to, look up the Women's Humane Society in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, or the Bucks County SPCA. Both of these organizations, one is within 5 miles of the worst pigeon shoot in Pennsylvania. The pigeon shoot is more than 100 years old. The Humane Society is more than 100 years old. And when we say, why aren't you out there with us rescuing the birds, protesting, leafleting, bringing charges, all this stuff, they say, oh, we're using our special connection with legislators to get laws passed. The pigeon shoot and the organization is well over 100 years old. That's how special their connection with legislators are. So folks, I don't know, if you're from California, well, you can still contact the Federated Humane Societies of Pennsylvania and give them living hell. These people are outright, flat out traitors to the animals, and they're making real nice salaries while betraying them. So If you haven't gone by our booth, go ahead and stop by. We've got video footage of the pigeon shoots and of the rodeos. We've got our aircraft, our camera-equipped angels, and you can see actually aerial footage of these copters doing incredible things, because now the animal abusers are trying to hide behind walls and up on hills surrounded by trees and all this. We've got long-range lenses. We've got high pods that raise the cameras 30 feet into the air. We got all this stuff. And it's like an arms race. They hide here, we get them that way, but they hide in a different way. But now we've got the aircraft that are, and you're hearing about these drones. And you're hearing about laws being passed to ban the drones. Those laws are being passed by NRA minions to hide from us. So it's funny, they're saying, oh, we gotta ban these drones because they're violating our privacy rights. And then at the same time, you turn around and say, guns, no problem. You know what the biggest invasion of privacy is in this country? It's a big fucking chunk of lead entering your body without your permission. And the real kicker about all this, you know, and this country says, oh, we don't allow bullies, we don't tolerate bullies. That's bullshit. Everybody from the president, from either party, on down to local governments and local police departments are afraid of the NRA. They're the biggest bullies in the country. But you know what's even funnier, in a kind of a weird way, is that the NRA is scared to death of us. We've actually tracked down NRA members, like former NRA president John Sigler, who ran from our Stu Chapis when Stu confronted him about pigeon shoots. Why? Because John Sigler, who is from Delaware, who was the Delaware GOP head, comes to Pennsylvania to shoot pigeons because he can't get away with it in his own state. So to wrap up, folks, if you call yourself an activist, please become active, be active. Make it, if possible, your life. I know we all get all whooped up here, but then we get home and we find out that something's coming up on a day that we wanted to go to the movies, or we wanted to do this, or we didn't want to do anything at all. And I know when is it ever convenient to go out and fight animal abuse? But if you can spend the time and money and effort to come here for an enjoyable time, please, do you not then owe it to the animals to take your time, money, effort, and spend at least some of it actually fighting animal abuse? Thank you very much.